You know him, you love him. Every single Tuesday at 5:20, Albert Breer joins us now of the MMQB. Albert, welcome back to the show, buddy.
So you want to talk about Giants and Dolphins then? Is that what we're doing now?
Oh, I mean, well, I called the Dolphins loss a statement loss. I don't know if you agree with that, but it just wasn't a great statement to make.
Yeah, I would say that was not great. And, after some of the stuff that you've heard the last couple of months, I'd say you wanted them to come out and kind of snuff all that out, and that certainly didn't happen on Sunday afternoon in Indianapolis.
No, but Albert, there was a lot of optimism around this Browns game, even though it ended in a loss. I mean, the defense being part of it, but I thought it was a massive win for Andrew Berry because his rookie class really shined on Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, like, seeing Carson Schlesinger, I think you hear all the stuff about, what he can bring to the table. And I would feel great about him as the green dot, and a guy who can be a leader for your defense going forward. And that's what you're looking for. I mean, this is part of it, you know what I mean? Like going and trading down, getting Mason Graham with the 5th overall pick, passing on Travis Hunter. I think so much of it was they needed an infusion of young talent. And I think that all links back to the cost of the Deshaun Watson trade. When you go 3 years without a first-round pick, you have a lot to make up for. And it looks like the Browns are starting to do that. And, I mean, we'll see. Maybe over the next week or two they get even more help with Quinshon Judkins coming back.
So you mentioned that, Albert, Quinshon is basically in a kind of limbo from the Browns' perspective because they have a roster exemption, but they signed him last week. Theoretically could play on Sunday. From the league perspective, do we have any clarity about where Quinshon is and how likely he is to hear from the league before maybe even Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those difficult ones because he wasn't found responsible for anything, So I'll be interested to see which way this one goes. We've seen these things go back and forth in the past, and obviously the Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson and Greg Hardy cases. I think that was 2014, right? Like when those happened, you remember there was a lot of. Well, now they're going to go a step further with every one of these. And, I think since you've seen them sort of dial that back a little. So this is sort of an interesting test case of, a guy who obviously has no track record in the league yet and wasn't found responsible by the law, because I can still remember the Ezekiel Elliott case, what happened there was, and then what Jerry Jones's, argument to the other owners was, like, hey, we should be letting the legal system, law enforcement, take the lead on these. And in a case like this, if you do let law enforcement take the lead, well, then there probably won't be a very significant penalty. But we'll see what happens.
I want to ask you about Andre Schmidt, the kicker. He missed 2 kicks. It's kind of been the big story over the previous 48 hours or so. How quick would you be to just kind of say, all right, you didn't get the job done, and we're just going to push you aside if you are dealing with the kicker, and again, it's a very first pro game, just not playing well?
Yeah, I think it's different than if you're with an established guy where that the adjustment to the pros, the nerves, all that different stuff isn't having an impact. Like if you brought in a guy who had bumped from team to team and he comes in and he misses a couple field goals in your first game, you might be a little bit more apt to have 5 kickers in the following Tuesday to see what's out there. With a younger kicker, you're gonna be a little bit more patient. I think you get a little bit more rope. So. I don't know that he's got the longest leash in the world, but the fact that he wasn't, it didn't cost him a draft pick to get him probably does put him on alert a little bit more.
Albert, we got to see a vintage Kevin O'Connell performance last night on Monday Night Football in the comeback, come from behind win over the Bears. So Kevin O'Connell, bright, young, offensive-minded head coach named Kevin. The Browns got one of those too, and Kevin Stefanski. Which coach around football is a little more highly thought of, Kevin Stefanski or Kevin O'Connell?
I mean, I think they're both very well respected. I would say like what O'Connell has done is pretty impressive. And being able to, first make his offense work for Kirk Cousins, which he was coming from Sean McVay, so there's background there. And then, the following year winning with Sam Darnold, and then letting both Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones go, and now it looks pretty good with J.J. McCarthy. I think put it this way, I think they're both very well respected. If either of them were available, they both very, very well sought after. But I don't think, if teams could draft coaches right now, I don't know if there will be very, very many in front of Kevin O'Connell. Maybe McVay and Shanahan, but I don't think the list would be very long of guys who'd be picked by other teams to come and coach their team. So I would give O'Connell the slight edge. But, Kevin Stefanski is also very, very well respected. Again, I think if he were to be available for one reason or another, I don't think he'd be unemployed for very long.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how many coaches fall into that bucket, Albert, of every quarterback he's with, there's just no real doubt that he's going to be able to make it successful.
Yeah, I guess you could put McVay in that category and Shanahan in that category, right? Shanahan and McVay have both made it to Super Bowls with multiple quarterbacks, which I don't know how many people have done that, let alone at those guys' age, But both those guys have that on their resume, which is incredibly impressive, right? But there aren't a ton that have had success with multiple quarterbacks. So, and look, Stefanski's made the playoffs with multiple quarterbacks too. So, there just aren't very many people that can say that they've done that. And, I think because of having that bullet point on your record, I think any of these guys would be really, really, really sought after if they were to become available.
Albert Breer of the MMQB on the Fan Hotline here. Micah Parsons, impactful, although in a smaller role, but impactful in Green Bay, just blowing out Detroit. I feel like because of the trade, if Micah has his typical season, I feel like he's the shoe-in for Defensive Player of the Year award, because it's the narrative is right there for all the voters. Yeah. Is it too early for me to rubber stamp that one?
No, I think the story is always part of it, I believe Khalil Mack won it in 2018, right? Am I right about that?
Yes.
I'd have to look that up. I think he did, though, right? Because I think that was the 1 year, because Aaron Donald, I believe, won it 3 or 4 years, and maybe the 1 year he didn't win it, it wound up being Khalil Mack. So, yeah, I think, there's no question that, the story can be a part of it. And I bring up Khalil Mack because that was after he was traded, right? So he was traded to Chicago, and that became part of the story is, Khalil Mack has come in and helped the Bears become a 12-win team. So, I think if the Packers are able to kind of lift the ceiling on what people think they can be, if they're able to advance to the playoffs, and this is all voted before then, right? So if they're the number 1 seed in the NFC or the number 2 seed in the NFC, and he has 13 or 14 sacks, I think he'd certainly be a really strong contender, and the story does absolutely help that.
Albert, Browns take on the Ravens this week, and there's a couple other storylines we want to get to within that game. But I did want to ask your thoughts on what happened on Sunday night. It might already be the game of the year, but it's odd. The response to it has been highlighting Harbaugh double-digit collapses in second halves. And I never really questioned Baltimore's regular season. It's interesting. It's now people are looking at this as if this is some sort of doubt that'll linger within the Ravens, whereas I looked at it like these are two really good teams. They just solidified themselves at the top.
Yeah, that's because people are miserable and they're looking to bring other people down with them, right?
It might be.
I honestly, I didn't even know that. I hadn't even heard that there was anything like that going on. I don't think anybody would doubt that the Ravens are a supremely well-coached team, a supremely well-run program, and I honestly think what happened on Sunday night is tough for them, but the Bills have similar questions coming out of it. You know what I mean? The Bills come out of it and their run defense before the last half of the fourth quarter, I think had given up almost 10 yards to carry. So I just sort of chalk it up to in these high leverage games between teams like that, with and they both have like Superman at quarterback, things are going to happen, you know. And just as like when you see the Ravens build a 15-point lead, there were a lot of questions about Buffalo. I mean, I think you find those on social media in the fourth quarter of that game. When that 15-point lead evaporates, people are going to be looking for another set of storylines with the Ravens. So I don't know, man. Like, I don't think it's going to happen again with the Ravens. I would assume they're going to come back real strong this week, and it wouldn't surprise me or I think anybody else if those two teams met again in January.
Albert, I'm not sure if you're aware of this storyline, but the Ravens are going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of becoming the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday, a day that just happens to coincide with the Cleveland Browns. The town and basically the team.
Know that.
Yeah, I'm a little pissed about it, quite frankly. Is there any out for Baltimore that I can't see that would make me all of a sudden less upset?
I don't know. I mean, look, I feel for you, Nick. I moved to Ohio in 1998. So, like, when I lived there, and I met a lot of my friends there, and as you guys know, at Ohio State, like back then, it was like, I would say like 50% of the people that I was around were like from Northeast Ohio. So I was there when the Browns didn't exist, right? And I was there in that 3-year period when the Browns didn't exist. And I remember how that just cut a piece out of like those people and how easy it was to get into their skin when you brought that up. So I like to think like I've got some insight to the scars, and it's kind of messed up they would put that they would celebrate the 30th anniversary of that when the Browns are in town, because obviously it's also the 30th anniversary of something else.
Yeah, Albert, I was trying to just give them some sort of pass with the idea that like Joe Flacco is a big part of the 30 years, and maybe they were trying to do it in a way so they could honor Joe while also being there. And then you see like the honorary captain list, and it's all the people. It's the people that was the governor of Maryland, the person that was the mayor of Baltimore, like all these people that were just very impactful with getting the team to Baltimore. And it's like, all right, forget you guys. You're not even trying at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like that part of it, again, like if they weren't playing with the Browns, you wouldn't care about that, right? I don't think.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Right. So I mean, if they aren't playing the Browns and all that stuff's fine because those are the people that brought the Ravens there. So like that part, I'm a little less like I don't care as much about that. Like I like doing it when you're playing against the Browns does feel like a little bit like. Do you guys remember when Washington and St. Louis had the trade? The RG3 trade, and then Jeff Fisher had all the guys who were in the trade come out as captains.
Yeah,
when RG3 was kind of was like really in a rough spot. Like that's what this feels like a little bit. Like I mean, and especially when you consider the success the Ravens have had and winning 2 Super Bowls and becoming one of the best franchises in all of the league. Like it wouldn't feel to me if I was a fan like they were rubbing my nose in it. I don't blame you guys for that at all.
Albert, the Broncos announcing today that the Walton Penner ownership group is privately funding the Broncos' entire new stadium project. That is in stark contrast to the Browns taking public money to build the Brook Park Dome. There are other teams recently that have done this. I'm just curious, does this make waves in the league office when a relatively new ownership group decides to privately fund the Broncos' entire new stadium? Or is this different from maybe the way it would have been received 20 or 30 years ago when we were still fresh in the minds of the Baltimore, Cleveland, all the different moves that we saw?
Well, I mean, like, you guys know what the last name of the Broncos owners is, right? Like,
yeah, it's the Walmart family.
I mean, it was interesting. I remember when I was like, when they first bought the team, I was looking things up, and like there was, I think Rob Walton is actually the one who's the primary owner, right? I think it's Rob Walton. Whoever it is, it's one of them. And Greg Penner is the guy who actually runs the team, but who's the son-in-law. But I looked it up, and like Rob Walton was like the 15th wealthiest person on the planet. And then I looked at the list again, and like his brother was number 16. I was just like crazy, like a holy crap. You know what I mean? Like the 2 family members, which I mean, essentially it's the same money, right? Like so. Anyway, it was just. I think a huge part of it is like the financial wherewithal of this group, and like wealth on like the craziest level possible. It's like Steve Ballmer building the Intuit Dome in LA and not even thinking twice about it. I think it is just being at that level of wealth where even $4 or $5 or $6 billion doesn't really even move the needle for you. You know, I don't know what that's like, but I think that's a big piece of it. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody should pay attention to it, you know, because look, if the league is as lucrative as it is, right, and these people all bring home whatever the number is, $300 or $400 million a year without lifting a finger to do anything, because all of that's from the national revenue, then I mean, we should be taking a hard look at how public money is used in these cases. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Albert, Nick and I got in a debate yesterday, and I want your opinion on it. So I said that with the Lamar Jackson shove and DeAndre Hopkins, I was like, it's just no harm, no foul. You can't touch players, and if that's Lamar's response, then I was kind of happy to see it, if I'm being honest. Nick wanted a one-game suspension for Lamar. Where do you side?
I mean, I just think fans have become so emboldened to do these sorts of things now. I always say there's a couple reasons why. I think one, I said this on Twitter the other day. I kind of mean it though. Like, I don't think enough people have been punched in the face. You know what I mean? Like, I think when we were like growing up in the 80s and 90s, like the value of like doing something really dumb to somebody and then having to pay for it. Like, I think there's value there. Like, I think we all kind of have a better idea than this generation does of what's okay and what isn't. You know, I think the presence of video cameras everywhere has something to do with it too. Like, this idea that someone can go viral by doing something dumb like that, I think is a piece of it. And then I think the other thing is, like, just the price of getting into these games now. Like, you have more, and I don't know about you guys, but I have a lot of friends up here in New England that have Patriots season tickets that sell almost all of them because they're really expensive now. And it's like, okay, like, I want to go to 2 or 3 games, so I'll keep my season tickets, but I'll sell off however many of them. And then you got a lot of people who are going to the stadium for one game. And what do you think that guy's doing in the stadium if he's going to one game per year in the parking lot before the game, right? What do you think he's doing? So, like, I think there's, like, a little bit more of that, too, where it's like when the stadium's mostly season ticket holders and people are going to every game and you don't have the online ticket services and ticket brokers doing all of this stuff, like, there's people that are probably a little bit more responsible to feel like, hey, I have to sit in this seat next week. You know, when you have that turning over all the time, it becomes a big free-for-all. So I think there's a bunch of different factors, and I don't blame the players. Like, I mean, there's no excuse for a fan acting that way. And, like, the player doesn't know if that fan has, like, a pair of brass knuckles in his pocket, has a knife. Like, they don't know. You know what I mean? Like, so I would be mad if I was a player, too. And that was a little long-winded, but I feel strongly about this one. Like, should a player probably keep his hands to himself? Yeah, but I'm not going to blame anybody for getting upset if somebody puts their hands on them.
Albert, we get about 30 seconds. I need to know. You said people don't know what it's like to be punched in the face. Does this mean you, Albert Breer, have been punched in the face?
Oh, yeah, a bunch of times. I've done a bunch of dumb stuff. I paid a price for it. Most of my friends that were around me when I was 22 or younger probably saw me hit in the face at one point or another. I think it's sisters. And probably saw me deliver some too. So, but it's a different world now. It's a different, you know, like, but I do think, like, I am sort of serious when I say that, though. Don't you guys agree? Like, there's value in being punched in the face. You say something dumb to somebody, you get hit, you're probably not going to do it again. You know what I mean? Like, or you're at least going to think twice before you do it again.
Or you start valuing having bigger friends, which is how my best friend in the world, Nate, never got punched in the face when I was around because he was very mouthy, but his friend was 6'4" and 300 pounds.
I think we all have that friend, right? I have a high school friend like that. I think we all have that friend who, like, you knew if you went out at night with him, there was a chance you were going to have his back because he was going to do something dumb that he wasn't going to be able to back up for himself, right?
That's my best friend. Nate. Albert, we appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks, Albert.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Albert Breer on the Fan Hotline.